Hey, so this is a little bit impromptu, a little unscripted, and I don't know how much I wanted to make this video because I kind of wanted the Nick and Lazuli fan base to make their own theories and have their own interpretations of what the story is about. But I did kind of intentionally weave a lot of themes into the Nick and Lazuli story. Some of it was like stuff that I thought before I wrote each episode, and then other stuff is stuff that like lined up and I kind of leaned into it as I wrote. Um, but the big thing is I did weave a lot of chess themes into episode 14, and this might be obvious to people who have played the game, because of course you have the standard Mindwalker types. You have the pawns, which are the little eyeballs with wings. You have the rooks, who are like these strong windmill towers. You have the knights, who are like these more humanoid looking things with like sharp sword like arms, who always travel with like the Bindwalker hounds, who are like their little steeds, I guess. And then you got the Bindwalker bishops, who are kind of like these demon looking figures with like trumpets and wings. Um, and so that stuff's pretty obvious. But then there's other stuff, and I'd kind of like to talk about like the main villains of the series, which pretty much all of the main villains were involved in episode 14. Um, and were kind of like paired with their respective Bindwalker type in the boss fights. So you have Jackinth, right? And he's sort of like this strong, silent powerhouse. He has a lot of power compared to Mithrian, but he's a lot quieter, of course. So he's kind of like the strong rook of the coven, I guess, the 10 of clubs. Um, and then of course you have Mithrian himself, who's the knight. He has the sword, so he does like his sword combats. He has like his own horse. He has like the ship. That's like his horse, I guess. But he's also like a strong knight. He's like a strong knight devoted to his mother, or at least what he thinks is his mother, which his father would disagree with him on. His human dad, he would disagree with him on that, but he's very devoted to what he thinks is the will of his mother. Kind of like a knight would be devoted to their cause. Um, and then I did have the fight with the bishops in it. Hakkar isn't the stand-in for a bishop. Hakkar is the stand-in for the queen, obviously. Um, I don't want to reveal a lot about this character yet because we're gonna get more on this character when we get into season 3 and 4. But the shadowed one, the Joker card, he is essentially the quote unquote bishop of the coven. Because he's like the false prophet, the shadowed prophet, who just kind of like feigns uh, support for like the the different members of this very varied coven. Um, and he's kind of there to like prop up Saturmon as like the quote unquote father of the Mindwalkers. He's there to prop up these like false ideas of Mithrian's mother. Um, he's kind of like this guy who like pretends to be a prophet, um, but is essentially just trying to get stuff out of all the different other people of the coven. Um, so he's not involved in episode 14 too much, but he will be in the future. So then we have the king and queen, Saturmon and Hakkar. Now, of course, Hakkar, she rides on the back of the dragon, right? The Leviathan. The coiling Leviathan. Um, and there's a big focus on how if this Leviathan reaches the city, it's going to do major damage to the city. And this is kind of like based on how the queen piece works in chess. The queen is the powerhouse. The queen can move in any direction she wants, take any pawn she wants. Um, and so the intention is you want to get the enemy's queen out of the way as soon as possible. You want to get the enemy's queen out of the way before they do way more damage than can be fixed. Um, so that's kind of what Hakar's about, why she's the main antagonist on like the hero side of things. And then you have Saturmon, who doesn't directly engage in the battle to destroy the city of Amon. He just kind of like sits in his chambers, doesn't really move, and he just watches the game and see how it plays out. So he's like the king piece in chess. And of course, in chess, it doesn't matter how many pawns you take down, how many rooks, how many knights, whatever. All that matters in chess is that you put the king in check. You put the king piece in checkmate. And so that's essentially what the final battle of episode 14 is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to feel like that moment of checkmate. Like you have some moments with the heroes fighting the villains in which the villains are like really strong and like just kind of like pummeling them and stuff. And between each moment you play fighting them, you then get to switch to play as Nick. So this would be like sort of the turn system. So whenever something really exciting happens, it's like this is the villain's turn. This is when they're starting to destroy everything. When you go to Nick, this is like you making your move in chess. This is like you taking your pawns and moving them closer to the king. I didn't really pair the heroes up with any particular chess piece. I didn't really intentionally leave what they would represent in regards to each chess piece. And I forgot to mention on the villain side of things. I mean, the pawns. There's no pawn in the Coven. It's just the pawns just represent the entire army, I guess, of Mindwalkers. Forgot to mention that. So the heroes don't really apply to any particular chess piece, but there is sort of the imagery there of moving towards the king piece and putting it in checkmate. And that's when you win. That's when you win. When you defeat the king piece, that's when you win. And this is why Saturmon could not win. Because Saturmon could not approach the king. The heroes could approach Saturmon all they wanted, but Saturmon could not approach their king. And, some people who might have seen the other themes I have woven throughout the story might piece together what I mean by that. Of course, the king of the heroes would be Tava Father. And because Saturmon could not approach Tava Father, he could not win this battle. Saturmon could not win this battle. And that's kind of the chess themes I was getting at in episode 14. I think it turned out okay. The game itself is not amazing by any means. I'm not trying to make this like a huge amazing experience, but like I did work a little harder in episode 14 than I did for like other episodes of the series. And that's part of the reason I'm taking such a long break now. I want to take a break of a few months before getting into season 3. But I did just kind of want to explain the chess imagery a little bit and why I thought it was interesting.